Greetings and welcome to another episode of SPCA Stories. Hope you are all doing well. If you're new to us, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. I'm Dawn Fenton, SPCA Monterey County Content and Education Manager, and we're coming to you from the SPCA Monterey County Claire Jacobson Learning Center in beautiful Salinas, California. So here at SPCA Monterey County, we provide a wide scope of services to the animals and the people in our community. And in this particular episode, we will be starting to explore, just scratching the surface really, one of the most important things that we do here at the SPCA, and that's our Humane Investigations Department. So my guest this time around is Officer Jacob Duarte, our Humane Investigations Supervisor. Just a quick note to some of our more sensitive listeners, we do talk about very sensitive topics dealing with animal abuse and or neglect, so please take care while listening. I have, and I know everyone else does, we have so much respect for you and
Thank
for
you.
what you do. So I'm really excited to be doing this because I want everyone to know what you guys do and what you do. Okay. And the idea behind this whole podcast is, yes, we're going to talk about the animals, of course, but it's also about the people who do the work.
Yeah,
because
of course.
You're so important, and yeah, we just want people to understand. And I'm hoping that just because we're in Monterey County, it doesn't mean that someone in Idaho may listen to this and be inspired or think, well, you know what? Gosh, I'm thinking about a career change. Wow, that sounds like a cool job. You know, I'm hoping to inspire other people.
Okay.
So I just want you to know that from the beginning that I'm so excited about this, and I'm excited about telling the world what we do and what you guys do.
Yeah,
So,
no, it sounds great. I grew up watching Animal Cops Houston.
really?
Which is, yeah, it's pretty funny now that I'm doing the job.
That is amazing.
It wasn't somewhere that I'm like, I want to do that when I grow up. So that I find it pretty funny.
That is amazing. So would you say that was an inspiration of sorts?
I believe so. I grew up with lots of animals, so it was interesting as we had dogs, cats, chickens, pigeons, peacocks.
Wow.
We had a little bit of everything in the backyard.
Oh my goodness. So
it is.
That's
yeah.
incredible. You've always had animals in your life.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we grew up with them.
So how would you describe, so you are the Humane Investigations Supervisor. Is that your
Correct.
title? Okay. So how would you describe what you do to someone at a party? Like, they have no idea, you're just meeting them for the first time. How would you describe what you do?
I always start with, we investigate animal cruelty and neglect, and then I get a face that's like, what does that mean? So in smaller terms, I guess we just go basic, like how we teach the elementary school students when we do presentations. We're animal cops. So someone breaks the rules, someone breaks the laws, that's what we're here for. If it involves animals, that's us.
And then do you get a lot of questions from people after that?
Yeah, always. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like the conversations just keep going, and the conversation will last hours on just my job.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's really interesting. And one of the most fascinating parts of working for the SPCA is, getting to see you guys in action. Speaking of you in action, you have been around for a while here at the SPCA.
14 years.
14 years.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And you weren't always an animal cop.
No.
So tell me about your journey.
I started in animal care. So I started cleaning kennels, cages at the shelter. So dogs, cats, the small pets. And from there, then I became the assistant shelter manager. So I kind of moved up as time went by. I also ran our SPCA spay-neuter clinic for a few years. From there, I ended up moving to our Humane Investigation Supervisor position when available.
So did you always have that as a goal, or were you just sort of testing the waters to see? Because basically you've worked in almost every department here.
Yeah, and what I forgot to mention, I also did wildlife. I would do on-calls for about a year. I've also worked at the barn, so when they need bodies, then I'm down there. No, it was never a goal to be in this department. I just love animals so much, and I love learning new things, the new different diseases, injuries, treatment, care of just all different species, that anytime an opportunity came up, I would jump on it. So if the barn ever needed help in the morning because they were short staffed just to go clean, I'm on it. It got me some experience with horses, with the chickens. I had experience growing up with animals, but it's a different type of experience.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. So you've done it all. What kind of training clearly you've got quite a resume, but as far as the HI job, what types of things did you have to do? Special training?
So there is specific training that is needed to become a badged officer. PCA 32, laws of arrest. So we can arrest people if they commit animal cruelty. It's not something that we typically do, but we do have the powers to do that. We do have the powers to search and seizure. We have powers of writing search warrants and basically going in and serving them. So we do have powers as a peace officer. We've also done a Humane Investigations Academy that we have to do to become badged officers. Those are the two big trainings that are required. Because the area that we live in has a lot of livestock, the SPCA here will send us out to Colorado for a week-long horse training and investigations. So we're able to do that. I was fortunate enough to be able to be sent twice. So doing two different trainings for equine investigations, I have the training to basically be called an equine investigator. Not everyone has that. So again, I was just fortunate enough to be able to do that and have the proof and go and testify as an equine investigator.
So Monterey County is pretty big. How many officers do we have?
4.
So you're basically in charge of the entire county.
Yeah, that's correct. We are the furthest town in our county from us, where we're at now, is 2.5 hours. So if we get reports there, we're driving 2.5 hours there, investigating what we need to investigate, and then driving back 2.5 hours. That's half the day, just driving. So
you're busy. It's a big job. It's a very big job.
Yeah.
So people confuse us sometimes. Do they confuse what you do versus animal control or
yes.
You and your team? You're peace officers.
We're not
correct?
Peace officers. We have the powers of peace officers, which is kind of vague, I guess. Even law enforcement will kind of confuse that. So again, we have some powers as peace officers. We don't carry any guns. We don't have law enforcement, as we're not that type of officer. But we do get confused a lot with animal control. There is differences. We investigate animal cruelty and neglect. So any reports that come in, we have to go out and investigate if it's a truthful report or if it's just a neighbor dispute or anything in between. Animal control, when you see a loose dog, they're the ones that you call, and they're the ones that can help catch that animal.
So switching gears a little bit, tell me, what's a typical day like, or is there such a thing for you guys?
Kind of, sort of. Not really. When we come in the morning, it's checking our email, see what reports came in, kind of organizing our day. If we have other reports that we haven't got to, we'll organize them by area in the county. So we might have 4 calls in Seaside and 2 calls in South County, in King City, Lockwood area. So instead of going back and forth, going to Lockwood, then Seaside, then King City, and then Seaside again, we'll organize them in a way where we can get them all as fast as possible and as efficient as possible.
What is the hardest part of the job?
Seeing something wrong and walking away. And what I mean by that is we see the worst. At times we're seeing the worst. Not every single call we go to is awful, but a lot of times it is. And with animal law, it's not the best. It's not very strong. It isn't black and white, and we have to be able to prove that there is cruelty or neglect happening, which at times, just like any police case, it can take weeks, months, to even years. So I know that this animal's not being treated right or the way that I would treat it, and I have to walk away. So turning my back on an animal when I feel it's not right is, I would say, is the hardest part of the job.
How do you get past that? Because you have a lot of cases.
Yeah. No. So it can be difficult. It is kind of officer to officer. It really depends on an individual. For me, I tend to come back and work even harder to build a case, build it sooner, build it stronger, so I can remove that animal from what I would consider a bad owner. It is, we obviously need our time to think about it, to break, to just forget of all of the heartache that's happening. So it can become difficult. It is very difficult for some officers. And I think we all kind of cope in a different way.
Yeah, that has to be hard because, I mean, you don't come into a job like this just because. I mean, there's a piece of your heart or maybe your whole heart invested in what you're doing. And so I can imagine that would be hard to kind of compartmentalize.
Yeah, so it is. It really is. It's remembering that we're here to rehome these animals, to find them better homes or something more suited for them, or get them out of those bad situations. I can't save every single animal, but I'm going to try my darn hardest to.
What was your hardest case? I'm just going to go there. I'm going there.
It wasn't my case, but I was involved in it. We had a woman come to the shelter, and at the beginning, it wasn't even a case at all. A woman came into the shelter looking for euthanasia assistance. She ran into one of our officers, who then pointed her to our intake facility and scheduled. She couldn't bring the dog to us, but wanted to be brought for euthanasia. So we worked with her to make an appointment to go pick up the dog. When we arrived, it was a really foul odor in the backyard. So when we got into the backyard, the dog was inside this doghouse, not wanting to come out. It was one of those doghouses that are kind of split in half. You can unclip the top. So that's what we did. We unclipped the top end so then we can get to the dog. And one thing that I always tell my officers is to not show emotion when owners are there. We can't be judging them. They need help while we're there because they need help or they need education, or for whatever reason we're there. We cannot show emotion or be judgmental towards anyone. After we unclipped that doghouse and saw the dog, saw that he had a ruptured tumor in his penis area. I looked down and I just shook my head no. I didn't say a word, but I shook my head, and till this day, I think that's been the hardest one. We drove back in silence. We did a little bit of investigating and found that the owner knew of this tumor 2 years prior to us going and picking up the dog. It was the hardest case. Again, it wasn't mine, but just seeing that after telling all my officers, do not be judging, do not be showing emotion, do not do this, do not do that. And I did it. I couldn't hold back. It was a simple, just a shake of my head no. But it affected me. So we did file charges. We did come out winning in that case. So the owner could no longer own animals. We had a search and seizure. She had to pay some fines. So I would say that's the hardest one for me.
So now, Jacob, what exactly does the law say about the basic care for animals? What should we be providing, and what are you looking for when you go out on cases?
Food, water, and shelter. Yeah, to keep it straightforward and basic, food, water, and shelter is needed. We do every so often. We'll get reports of neighbors not walking their dogs, and I wish they would walk their dogs every single day. But that's not against the law. So even if they don't take them out that week or that month, there's nothing that we can do if their animal is healthy. That's one of the common ones that we do get that we're like, well, it's not against the law. I wish it was, but it's not.
Mm-hmm. Part of my job is I do or work with our social media team, and we get occasionally we'll get people who will message us on Facebook or Instagram and say, well, my neighbor, they have their dogs outside all the time, and they're, it's cold out, and we ask, do they have water? Do they have food? Do they have a dog? Well, yes, they have a dog house, and yes, they, there is food and water. And it's hard to, because we don't legislate how people love their pets. Or like you said, I mean, my dogs are in the bed with me. They sleep with us at night. But not everyone does that.
No, not at all. The hard part is, in other states or other cities that snow, obviously we can make an argument that it's really cold outside. There's actually snow outside. It's going to take more than a blanket to warm up your pet. In our area, we don't get that cold so it makes it very difficult.
We don't have winter.
No, we don't.
Well, we have winter, but it's not like that. So can you think of a case that sticks with you that was amazing and, just the reason you do the job, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, our horse Hugo. We had two horses. So we had a property out in the South County area, in the Lockwood area. The owner, I'm going to call him a repeat offender. We were there every year. Had two horses. We were there every year following up on the care. So the issues, we were there every year was no food, no water. Every single year, no food, no water. We would go, the owner would just do the basics. Just enough to be okay with the law, to get us out of her hair and move on with her life. 1 year again, like clockwork, we were there again. And this time the horses were so malnourished that at the moment we're taking them. Like, it got really bad. So we decided to seize them on the spot. We brought them back. Our vet was already waiting here for us when we arrived. She took a look at these horses and was like, oh my God, how are they even standing?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It was bad. We got them, our barn actually did all the work, but they got them up to health. It was so bad, one of the horses ended up passing 2 days after arriving with us. So she got her exam, was on medications, and didn't make it. She ended up having, I believe it was seizures in the middle of the night. So we couldn't save her, but her partner, Hugo, is what we called him. He did amazing. He recovered, gained lots of weight, and got adopted. And that's when I was really happy, just seeing that horse with skin and bones to where our barn got him to, just gaining some weight, being a happy horse, being free, and enjoying life, getting that second chance that we always strive for.
So what is it that inspires you to come to work every day?
Making a difference for an animal's life. It is very difficult to change a person's opinion or way of seeing life or way of thinking. But in a way, I hope that I can just make an animal's life a little bit better.
What do you wish we could do differently I'm going to make it broad, as a people, what could we do? What do you wish we could do differently?
I think we're doing it as we go. I know when I started 14 years ago, the programs that we have now, we didn't have back then. Our behavior team was one person, where now we have a whole building. Education was one person, and now we got multiple.
And we got a building.
And we got a building. Going out and presenting was the same thing. It was run by you. And now we have our HI department that will go out and present of the different things that we do. We have other managers that also do the same thing. So I think we're expanding as a whole, little by little, just kind of testing the water, seeing us grow, making us grow, and working hard to do so.
I would love to see us help other organizations with new programming, or even get feedback from other organizations that are bigger than we are. I go to a conference, or I used to go to this conference, but now Angelica goes. It's for the educators, and it's amazing. And I don't know if you've gone to conferences and seen the same thing with what you do, but I will be at a table with someone who is an animal control officer. They have one stoplight in their town, and it's just this one person who does animal control and really sees a need in the community and in the schools for kids to learn something about animals and how to treat them and how to care for them because of what he or she sees. I've seen like the one-stop town, or, one-stop light town. And then there's like San Diego, or, bigger cities who have 15 educators who go out to schools, and, where they have like a whole program that's, just 15 people that go out. And, so I'm really interested to see what kind of feedback we get from this podcast from other agencies. And so I'm hoping.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. A lot of the trainings that I end up going to, we have a lot of different animal control or humane investigators. And it's the same thing. Some departments are really small, or they work with the PD, but they're the ones that handle all the animal cases. While other departments, like you mentioned, San Diego being one of the biggest ones, I want to say Idaho or Iowa. It was an I state.
One of the I states.
There was one officer who was in charge of the entire state. And it was like, really? And she goes, yeah, it sounded more of a consultant for animal cases. She'll work with different sheriff's departments and help them through the animal cases. But it was a state that she would say it will take her just a couple hours to get to the other side of the state. When California is huge, like there's no way we can do that. So I was surprised with that.
Well, and I can imagine too that different states have different laws and different tough degrees of toughness, I guess. So that's got to make things interesting too. I think I would imagine that California is pretty tough with the law, those laws, as compared to other states.
I would think so. A lot of states have very similar laws, might be worded a little bit different. But I think most of the felonies are felonies, like dogfighting is a felony in all 50 states. So we are pretty up there, but it's still not the best, I would say, working in this field.
We could be tougher.
Yeah. One way of comparing it, I would say it would be like CPS. I remember talking to someone and they literally told me, oh, so you're like CPS. I'm like, I've never thought about it like that. Guess that's another way of animal cops. We have to build a case. Just like CPS goes and builds a case on the child, we build it on the animal to remove it from that home. And I was surprised. I had never thought about it like that, but till this day, it stuck with me because I'm like, I guess it is very similar.
Going back to how the job is emotional, or it's inherently emotional. What do you do for yourself? What's your self-care like? What do you find you need to do at the end of a hard day or a hard week, or what can you do? What do you do for yourself?
Yeah, I have to shut my brain. So if it's the end of a day, it can just be AirPods with music very low as background noise, where I don't have to think, I don't have to talk. I can just have my dinner and just listening with background noise of not using my brain. It's what helps me. If it's something, after ending a long case, a stressful case, at times I'll go camping where, again, I'm just away from all electronics, where I don't have to talk. I just don't have to think. I thought enough during the day. I thought enough during the entire case that at this point I just want to take a break from thinking and just admire nature. I'll go on drives. I'll go on hikes. Again, it's just more like a robot. Pick a trail and just walk it and enjoy the nature. That would be mine, I would say. It's just zoning out and focusing on other things without really thinking about a case.
So what more would you like to see from people, from our community? What more?
I think it's treat animals like part of your family. A lot of people nowadays really do consider them part of their family, but we still see a lot of people where a dog is just the guard dog just because it barks, or it's in the backyard because that's where dogs live. You mentioned earlier your dog sleeps with you. My dog does too. So my dog has a doggy door so she can go out to the backyard when she needs to do her business, but for the most part she's inside 24/7. And we still see a lot of people just have their animals outside. My parents growing up, our animals were kept outside. My sisters and I always snuck the dogs in, always snuck the cat in. Somehow my mom would always know. And we had no idea how until we grew up and had our own places. And we're like, how does she know? And it was because we had the dogs on the couch and we would leave dog hair. She caught us every single time. But my parents, well, the way that I grew up, where the dog is a dog and a chicken's a chicken and they're outside. After the years, I started having my dogs inside, and now my parents have their cats inside. Dogs are inside. We go over and all animals are inside. They got in inside and outside. So I think it's just...
So things shift.
Yeah. It is just realizing that if you train your pet, then it will do what you want them to do. It will love you the way you love it. And again, you make them part of your family. It's not just a pet. That's my kids would call our dog their sister. So,
So yeah, I was going to ask you about your dog and what's your dog's name?
Valentina,
what she means to you and your family.
Yeah, again, my kids call her their sister. So I think that just sums it up.
Oh, I love it. So she is absolutely part of the family. If somebody out there listening to this thinking, wow, what an interesting job this is, where do they start? I mean, if we've got someone in high school who's like, whoa, this sounds like something that I would be interested in pursuing or looking into, where do they even begin?
It's anywhere animal related. I think we all in the department have different backgrounds, but at the end of the day, all our backgrounds are animal related. We've all worked in some capacity in a clinic, in another shelter, in wildlife with cows, with other type of livestock. So we all have different background that got us to the same spot. But again, everything is animal related that just brought us here all together.
Thank you so much for the work that you do. I am in awe and inspired by everything that you guys do. The work that you do makes me want to do better work for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Like doing stuff like this. I'm like, how can I use... I loved animals my whole life, was not allowed to have them as a kid. But I'm not a kid anymore, so I have animals. But I've always wanted to use my voice and creativity to help.
Exactly.
And you and your team make it such a pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, of course. Thank you, because without you, then you wouldn't be spreading the love that you are now. The department has grown because of you. more kids are learning how to care for animals because of all the education you have done throughout the years. So bringing them in, showing them around, letting us talk to them at the same time where you're just passing by and like, hey, this is Officer Duarte with the SPCA, and a small little spiel. It's really helpful and it brings joy to us. At the same time, again, you've expanded our program so much. And then doing this podcast, it's another step to something greater.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. And I just want to thank you for your time. And I'm sure I will have you back on with something else. And that's what I think is so great about this, is that there are so many things to talk about.
Yeah,
and so many. I mean, we could spend an hour talking about one case, as allowed, of course.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely you'll be back. So thank you, Jacob. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. We will definitely have Officer Jacob Duarte and his team back at another time, and probably more than once, for more in-depth discussion involving our Humane Investigations Department. And like I said at the beginning, we are just really scratching the surface, and we will continue to explore this and, of course, all things SPCA Monterey County. There is a lot to discuss and uncover and unpack. We would absolutely love to hear from you. So if you have any questions for us, please email us at info@spcamc.org. Please put podcast question or something like that in the subject line so that your question or comment can be forwarded to me directly. A huge thank you to all SPCA staff, volunteers, and board of directors. An incredibly supportive, compassionate, kind, and involved group of wonderful and talented people who work tirelessly and endlessly to care for the animals in our community. And of course, a very special thank you to our generous, loving supporters. We at SPCA Monterey County could not do what we do for the animals and people in our community without you. So thank you so much. And that, of course, includes this podcast. Dawn Fenton here, signing off until next time. Much unconditional love and kindness to you and your pets from us here at SPCA Monterey County.